This is Southern Cross News with Joe Palmer.
Good evening, everyone. Investigations are underway into last night's unrest at Risdon Prison, with up to 40 inmates facing potential repercussions. A 6-hour standoff between prisoners and guards culminated in the Tactical Operations Unit storming the facility. It's believed the phase-out of nicotine patches sparked the incident.
This is the dramatic end to a 6-hour standoff between inmates and guards at Risdon Prison. Tear gas and stun grenades deployed as the Tactical Response Group stormed the complex. Inmates had been refusing to return to their cells since midday, authorities attributing the incident to the phase-out of nicotine patches.
The nicotine replacement therapy was the reason cited for that bad behaviour.
The acting Corrections Minister says the situation was resolved peacefully with just one minor injury, commending a non-violent resolution despite the need for the prison's heavily armed riot squad.
The Tactical Response Group was required, it was appropriate, they achieved their objectives.
Prisoner advocates say the situation was inevitable, a ticking time bomb for a facility they say is grossly overpopulated as lockdowns further intensify frustrations.
Constant lockdowns, which means, and I had it confirmed last week in writing, that prisoners only get an hour out of their cells a day when there are lockdowns.
Representatives of correctional staff echoing a pressure cooker situation, under-resourcing putting guards and inmates at risk.
We have cells that are designed for one, housing 2 if not 3 prisoners, which is definitely adding to the pressure.
We're increasing the resourcing in terms of jobs. We're recruiting an extra 30 as we speak.
Unions say the government's jobs increase and extra bed capacity won't go far enough. Further sentencing reforms presenting a likely spike in inmate numbers.
Obsessive law and order policies has meant we're getting more people in prison.
A northern prison potentially in the pipeline, but with no time frame.
We're investigating a new prison in the north of the state, and those investigations are ongoing.
While investigations into last night's incident also continues, no charges have yet been laid. Jacqueline Robson, Southern Cross News.
There's been a development in the case of Sue Neal-Fraser, with another woman charged with perverting the course of justice in relation to the matter. Neal-Fraser has continually protested her innocence against a conviction of murdering her partner Bob Chappell. Louise Hedger has the details.
A woman from Risdon Vale appeared here at the Hobart Magistrates Court this morning. 41-year-old Karen Patricia Nancy Keefe was charged with 2 counts of perverting the course of justice, corrupting a witness and unlawful trafficking in firearms. Police allege Ms Keefe provided false evidence in relation to the case of Susan Neal-Fraser and a then 15-year-old homeless girl whose DNA was found on the yacht where Bob Chappell disappeared. Ms Keefe is also accused of agreeing to accept nearly $100,000 worth of cash and property in return for pressuring the girl to give false evidence. Neal-Fraser is serving a 23-year sentence for the murder of Bob Chappell, but is using last chance appeal laws to have the charges quashed.
All I know is that we have DNA evidence that backs up witness statements, and it's really important that the right to appeal legislation is tested in the appropriate forum.
Her daughter, Sarah Bowles, has been leading her mother's campaign for freedom.
We believe that there is a very serious miscarriage of justice that's occurred, and we don't believe that Tasmania Police are the best people to be investigating on an ongoing basis to discover what really happened to Bob Chappell.
Today, Ms Keefe did not plead to any of the charges and did not apply for bail. She has been remanded in custody and will reappear later this month.
A Rocherlea man accused of playing a role in a 2015 kidnapping has denied having any involvement, claiming he doesn't know how the alleged victim came to be at his unit. Our reporter Monika Dadson has more.
In a police interview recording shown to the Launceston Supreme Court this morning, Sean Richardson denied having any involvement with the alleged kidnapping of Victorian man Anthony McHale, saying he hardly knew him. 6 people, including Sean and his brother Kane Richardson, Christopher Humphreys, Malcolm Main, Matthew Williams and Carly Deckers, are all standing trial, accused of holding the man against his will for 3 days in February 2015 and assaulting him at various locations across Launceston and Port Sorell. It's alleged the accused demanded more than $75,000 from McHale to settle a debt. In his police interview, Sean said he had no idea 3 of the other accused and the alleged victim were at his unit on February 13. He said he was asleep upstairs and the first time I walked downstairs was when I was handcuffed. Sean also denied owning a revolver and using it to threaten McHale. A Port Sorell woman who lives opposite a house where McHale was allegedly shot at by Kane Richardson also gave evidence this morning. She said she woke to piercing screaming in the early hours of February 12, heard what she thought was the word help said repeatedly before 2 loud, sharp bangs. The 6 accused have pleaded not guilty to all charges. The trial continues tomorrow.
Newly released polling data suggests a growing problem for the Liberals as we head towards a state election. New Labor leader Rebecca White is rising in popularity, and pollsters say the gap in support between the 2 major parties is the closest it's been in 7 years.
Labor Party faithful welcoming their new leader at the state conference earlier this year. A major event for Rebecca White after replacing Brian Greene in March. That move now paying off, according to the latest EMRS poll.
So this is actually the first time in 8 years that the Premier, Will Hodgman, has effectively lost that preferred Premier ratings.
Brian Greene's support was sitting at 20%. Since Labor's leadership change, Rebecca White has surged, overtaking Will Hodgman as preferred Premier.
Will Hodgman has led this party for 11.5 years. And he's doing an outstanding job. And this government is doing an outstanding job.
But EMRS says the polls are tightening between the 2 major parties as well.
This is also the narrowest gap that we've seen in one of our quarterly polls in just on 7 years now.
Among decided voters, Liberal support is down 2% from May. Labor is steady. The Greens are up 1%. Support for others, including independents and the Jackie Lambie network, is at 12%. A point political analyst Richard Eccleston says could bring the election down to the wire.
It really depends on, whether those strong independents emerge. And if they do, that could be decisive in a seat such as Lyons, Braddon, or perhaps even here in Denison if Andrew Wilkie was to endorse a candidate.
Both major parties say they're campaigning for a majority government.
And so what the polling clearly demonstrates is the fact there will either be a majority Liberal government or a minority Green Labor government.
Well, a vote for Labor is hopefully a vote for majority government. We're going to be out there campaigning very strongly for majority government. We look forward to providing that stability for the Tasmanian public. That's the only position we are putting forward.
The government has said Tasmania will head to the polls in March, but speculation continues it could be sooner than that. Michael Breen, Southern Cross News.
A coroner investigating the death of pregnant mum Sarah Payno has praised the work of emergency responders and medical staff in his findings. Simon Cooper said the injuries Miss Payno received when a youth crashed a stolen car into her Nissan Tida in Hobart earlier last year were completely unsurvivable. He said nothing about the manner of Miss Payno's driving contributed. Mr Cooper added the outstanding effort of all responders and hospital medical staff was why baby Caleb was able to be brought safely into the world. The coroner made no recommendations in his findings. A 47-year-old man has been charged with arson following a fire at a Devonport unit last Friday. The Tasman Street unit was destroyed, causing $140,000 damage and has since been demolished. The occupants' belongings were also destroyed, valued at $10,000. Police say the 2 men were known to each other. The accused appeared in the Devonport Magistrates Court today and was remanded in custody to reappear later this month. Police are hunting for two offenders who allegedly held up Zepp's Cafe at Campbelltown with a crowbar in the early hours of Wednesday morning. Detectives say the pair were wearing face masks when they entered the business and confronted a staff member. The offenders left with a safe containing a quantity of cash. Anyone with information is asked to contact Crime Stoppers. The future of Tasmania's salmon industry has been outlined in the state government's draft growth plan for the sector, released in Parliament today. The blueprint provides regions of no-grow zones, identifies current leases and points to future growth areas. A raft of government action is hoping to provide public confidence in the booming sector.
The industry themselves have worked with us and indicated where they see the potential for finfish farming.
We'll have a really good forensic look at the document that the Minister's put forward, but on a first glance, it does appear that they picked up many of the recommendations around regulation and compliance that Labor's been arguing for.
It's clear the winners will be the industries that are looking to jump from Macquarie Harbour and find another place to go to, because it's so unsustainable to grow finfish in Macquarie Harbour.
The future of Macquarie Harbour will be discussed among current leaseholders, while the draft plan is out for public consultation. After 45 years in business, an iconic Tasmanian eatery will close its doors for the final time tomorrow. Fitzys City Cafe has served sweet treats and home-style cooking to generations of families, but time has finally caught up with the much-loved restaurant.
Can you remember when your dollar went further? Well, Fitzys can. They've found menus from yesteryear.
Here it isn't just the menus. The seating, the signage, and some would say the service all hark back to a time gone by.
You know, why change a good thing when it already works?
Rhonda has been working at Fitzys City Cafe since 1975.
Here we go, girls.
But she's calling time on the timeless establishment.
We are closing for the last time in Fitzys City Cafe. Final call.
To make way for an upgrade of Launceston's Harris Scarf, its home for all these years. Fitzys outlasted every one of its cafeteria competitors, but it can't live forever.
Lots of others have departed, like there was the Coles and the Venture and the Myers restaurants or cafeterias, and they've all gone, and I think we're the last man standing until tomorrow.
Frog hop down to Fitzys City Cafe for the traditional school holiday special.
Only memories will last. Fitzys became a second home for many, like this Mothers Club from Trevellyn.
This is a bit special. It's more a family type place.
They've met here each week for more than 40 years.
You have to think now, we still want to keep in touch. Where do we go?
It's a loss shared by countless regulars as they sat down for the final time.
Don't know where we're going to go now. It's just not anywhere else.
Generations of Fitzys fans have enjoyed a few familiar favourites. The classic chocolate mousse or the infamous frog in a pond. And sometimes you can't go past a plate of scones with jam. And always at a price you simply couldn't beat.
How much for all of this?
$2.90, thank you, sir.
$2.90 for all of this? Sensational!
Even the voice of Fitzys can't believe it's over.
It was just one of those things that survived, and survived for a long, long time.
What is your Fitzys last supper?
Well, it has to be a frog in the pond, Tom. Sensational.
Tom Johnson, Southern Cross News.
Back home, and Devonport coach Mitch Thorpe says the Pies won't be showing any sympathy towards the Blues this weekend, despite the side's final hopes hanging by a thread. The Blues come off a competitive showing against Glenorchy, while the Pies are showing promise and could prove a genuine threat.
Keeping things civil for the cameras, it'll be a far different story come Saturday.
Mitch and I are close friends, and what we do understand each other, we're both very competitive, so I think we'll see a fantastic game of footy.
We're very much looking forward to playing Lonnie. We know they're a strong side, they're coached well, but they've got a lot of pressure on them this week. They need to win, and we're going to try and get in their way.
With only 2 games left to play, the Blues are coming off a narrow 1-goal loss to Glenorchy.
The 2 weeks before that, Tigers and Hobart, we certainly dipped and we were a little bit flattened on the weekend. I thought the boys travelled down south and did everything we could possibly ask of them.
The side sit just above Hobart City on the ladder, but only by percentage. With Devonport finishing the season strongly, the Pies couldn't care less about Launceston's finals hopes.
We need to shut down a couple of their A-grade mids. Brody Powerfimmon's had a terrific year, and we need to put some work into him.
Meantime, support is growing for young North West Coast footballer Ethan Stevenson, who is still recovering in the Royal Hobart Hospital after sustaining a fractured skull during an NWFL match last weekend. A GoFundMe page was set up yesterday to support Ethan and his family and has so far raised more than $14,000.
The response from Saturday has been heartwarming to see that people in the local community really rally and donate money, send their love.
The Northern Hawks will get a chance to progress straight through to the State Netball League Grand Final, but to do so they'll have to achieve what no side has this season and beat the Arrows.
We've got our full team available to us this week, which is great and gives us a lot of depth, and I think if we stick to our game plan, we've got a real good chance of taking it up to them.
We know that we've got to play our best game, we've got to put it out there because, I mean, Hawks are a scoring machine and they've obviously finished second for a reason.
Kingston Blues take on Corona Flames in the weekend's other semi in a do-or-die clash.
We've had two really close contests this season, both coming down to the dying minutes of the final quarter. So yeah, it's going to be a really exciting match.
Through repeated efforts throughout the entire game. So I think that we just need to keep on the ball, keep our composure and just keep the intensity up at the same time.
The Corona-Kingston clash begins at 8 o'clock tomorrow night at the Hobart Netball Centre. Same venue for the Hawks and Arrows match, starting at 6:15 Saturday night. Following a popular inaugural season, Tasmania's Intercultural Sports League has secured a partnership with the Hobart Hurricanes to create the new Hurricanes Champions League.
Last year, Raj from the Intercultural Sports League ran a fantastic competition with 6 teams. We were really impressed with the work that Raj and his team have done.
There is a big demand. I mean, last year we had 6 teams. This year we already have 8 teams registered and there are so many of them who want to play.
The T20 competition will consist of 8 to 10 teams featuring players from a range of ethnic backgrounds and will run between October and January. Well, it's set to be elation for one and heartbreak for the other in tomorrow night's do-or-die clash between intrastate rivals the Chargers and the Tawns. A full house is expected at the deck for one of the biggest basketball matches in the state in recent times. The hype is building and the stakes are high.
Oh, we're just excited. I mean, it's massive. The way that this past weekend panned out, to be able to get a home final against the Tornadoes, like that's exactly what we wanted.
Really looking forward to the opportunity and really looking forward to hopefully making the Launceston community and the basketball community very happy.
The Tawns only needed to win one of their final 3 games to secure the home prelim final. Instead, they lost all 3.
We have to learn from them and become better and change what we do. And, you know, I think there's a little bit of complacency that comes in with any team once they make the playoffs.
And while the Chargers still finish behind their intrastate rivals on the conference ladder, some impressive recent form should see them favourites to take it in front of a packed home crowd.
Coming out to hunt that mantle, I suppose, of being the top team in the state.
Both sides will be full strength, and with names like Mansfield, Shear, Roberts and Shear Batoni, promises to be one of the Siebel games of the year. The winner will take on either Dandenong or Bendigo away from home, and for the loser, it's the end of the road.
They've got some very good players and they've got some very good role players as well. So it's been a tough match-up for us and hopefully we've learnt from the last 2 games.
I think that the last few weeks we've really shown you know, how well we can play together and how hard we can play, and so we're going to do that on Friday night. Just excited for the atmosphere because the deck this year has been awesome, and to have it packed out would be incredible.
Tip-off is 7:30 tomorrow night.
Good evening. A more impressive set of numbers tonight. Hobart 18 degrees, Launceston 17, Burnie 16 and Devonport 15 and 19 the high today. Thank you very much at Bushy Park, Friendly Beaches, Flinders Island and Campania. Some temperatures up to 6 degrees above average as we look to break through that 20-degree barrier for the first time in quite a while. St Helens and Grove 18 degrees, Strahan 17, King Island and Wynyard 16, Lowhead 14 degrees. There is a prefrontal band of cloud approaching our west coast as a cold unstable air mass crossed the Bight as well. Not much over the continent, just a thin band of middle-level cloud over inland WA stretching across the nation. Some cloud over north-east Queensland and south-west WA, but fairly clear up north. And here's the cloud band crossing the state today. Tomorrow, the front weakens over the Tasman Sea. A low moves to our southwest with a trough or 2 attached and a large high will move over South Australia. West to north-westerly winds at 20 to 30 knots, increasing to 30 to 40 knots over the west, south and north, and even up to 45 knots later, swells to 6 metres in western and southern waters. So we do have a gale warning. That's for all coastal waters apart from the lower east coast, where a strong wind warning applies between Wineglass Bay and Tasman Island. Couple more warnings, a small craft wind alert that's been issued for the lakes, and a warning to sheep graziers is also out there for all districts except for the east coast. So we'll put it down as a windy day tomorrow. Showery one for Hobart, a top of 14, 13 for Huonville, windy for Campania and 14. Not just windy in the north, but very windy. Showery for Launceston, 13, 13 for Devonport, Georgetown, that same forecast, and just 12 degrees. Burnie the same and 13, 12 the top for Strawn with showers. Windy day for Wynyard as well and 13 degrees. St Helens tomorrow, showery, becoming very windy, 15, 16 for Swansea and 14 for Port Arthur. On Saturday, showers again, mainly over the west, north and south, easing in the afternoon. An early thunderstorm for the southwest. Mainly fine on Sunday, apart from a shower for the west, north and far south. Conditions clearing on Monday with a shower continuing over the west and far south of the state. A shower over Perth tomorrow, a clearing shower for Adelaide and an afternoon shower for Melbourne. Mostly sunny conditions forecast for Canberra, Sydney and Brisbane. Cloudy conditions at the moment. It's 14 degrees in Hobart. A bit showery in Launceston, 12 and 12 degrees in Devonport with that rain moving in with the front, Joe.
Yeah, a bit rainy and yucky. Thank you very much, Merv. Just before I leave you tonight, we have a little bit more AFL news for you. The Tigers will be at full strength for Saturday's blockbuster against Geelong. Tom Brown is at Punt Road Oval. Good evening, Tom. Jack's back, returning from injury.
That's right. I'll start with Jack Grewalt. Jack's back after spending 2 weeks out with a nasty eye injury. He was reluctant, as you can see, to talk about it this afternoon. I think he's sick of talking about it. But it'll be a huge inclusion for Richmond this weekend in their very important clash against Geelong. Geelong, for their part, get back important players in Dangerfield and 2 barometers, including Motlop and Menzel. At the Saints, their Rewalt Nick is out with concussion. It's a real shame. It means you'll have just 2 games left. Sam Gilbert is back. They'll take on the Demons. Angus Brayshaw, the big surprise there tonight. At one stage, it looked like repeated concussions will keep him out all season. Good news potentially. There's a massive rivalry developing between the Dogs and the Giants. Stringer is back for the Premiers. Jason Johannesson still out. Patton and Green, massive ins for the Giants. There's 5 changes at Essendon with Kelly and McGrath back to take on the Crows. And Daniel Wells, this is a real shame, is out injured again for the Pies. He'll miss Sunday's game against Port because of a quad strain. 2 brief ones tonight, Tom. I don't think the Gold Coast will appoint a selection panel to find their new coach. Mark Evans, a one-man band. They're very confident he can do the job. And I'm very confident that Brendan McClements, a high-profile executive at a high-profile agency here in Melbourne, will take over as Pies CEO. Keep a close eye on that one.
All right, thank you very much. We can't get enough of our footy news, can we? That's all from the team for now. Have a lovely evening. Good night.
What's going on?